Where do the Nashville Predators stand after Barry Trotz announces that he will step down as general manager? Jack Williams of Locked On Predators is here to talk about that and what to expect at the trade deadline coming up next on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Gil Martin here. Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On NHL your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thank you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. It is my pleasure to welcome to the show for the first time the new host of Locked On Predators, Jack Williams. And Jack, not a lot of dull moments lately in Nashville. Barry Trotz announcing that he will step down as general manager as soon as they can find a replacement. First of all, how big of a surprise was this to people close to the organization?
Yeah, Gil, let me tell you, when I had a really long day Sunday and Monday, I was looking forward to sleeping in, and I woke up. Teresa Walker, who does all the AP stuff here in Nashville, I got a text from her. She's like, "Hey, are you going to the press conference?" I'm like, "What press conference? This is like my day off. It's like my nice day." And then right below was the ESPN notification. I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me." But it was ground shattering news, essentially, that this is a guy that's been with the organization, on and off, more or less, but he's been with it since its conception as their first coach. Left in 2014, won that Stanley Cup in Washington, had a good stint over with the Islanders, got them to the Eastern Conference Final, and then came back to Nashville as a general manager role. And he kind of hinted to that. He's like, "I'm taking a different role." He said in the press conference, "I didn't want hockey to overtake my whole life like it did with coaching." He still has a year left on his contract, but in the midst of everything right now, especially in Nashville, it's felt like everything's been building up to what the trade deadline is going to be. Right in the middle of nowhere, he says he's going to retire. And that kind of throws a wrench into everything of, well, what does this mean about his vision of what he wants to build for this team? You have fans in Nashville all over the place arguing if this team should go full tank or continue to push to the playoffs. So it puts the team just in the organization, everyone around it, in a very odd situation where you're on this Trotz vision of everything, and then suddenly it's happening, but it's not. Bill Haslam, the owner, said Barry Trotz is still very much a manager, but at the same time, every team in the league knows that your organization is looking for a new GM, and that's going to be on the minds of everyone, and it kind of puts a weird tone on what this team is building for and what it wants going forward.
So first of all, now there was an organization, a company that was helping with the search. That became a little bit of a mess. They're stepping down. What's going on with this search, and how close are they, do you think, to naming a new GM?
Yeah, the organization they had running with it as well, it was a conflict of interest with the NHLPA's rules and regulations. It was originally reported by the Predators that this isn't going to be a problem with the conflict of interest, and then as we saw yesterday, it was. So that fell through, but I mean, it's an interesting process. Bill Haslam said that they are set on having a new GM in the spot where Trotz is right now by draft day in June, which seems like a long time from now. It seems like a ways to go. And they said, but they're not set on that deadline. In my opinion, I didn't know if that meant they wanted to take even more time to find a GM or they would do it in less time. But it's going to be an interesting search for sure, especially since a lot of the management that's been here, a lot of the front office that's been here has not changed over its entire existence. With Trotz, who's been here to pick out the carpet that was in the locker room of this first team. Dave Poile has been here forever as well. You have owners, management that have been here for a long time. And the big question that revolves around here with this general manager search is this team finally going to do something different? Are we going to see a different Nashville Predators that isn't about, having big guys on the ice that are laying huge hits and that's how they're winning? That's not really what the NHL is nowadays. So is this organization, are the Predators going to take a switch and become a different squad? Are they going to have a different identity and go outside a little bit more? or are they going to continue to stay what they've been doing for the past 25 plus years and see similar players come in, have a similar mindset? The ownership is not changing. So, I mean, that's a fair argument, but that's another crossroads that it's coming down to as well. Is just, this is major in the identity of the organization. And is it going to stay the same way? If it does, we're probably going to see more of the same results from this team, or is something different going to happen, which may lead to a full rebuild, or it might amplify this team to different levels we have never seen before.
Is there an in-house candidate that would be, we're going to stay the course, this is the guy that we're going to turn to?
Poile is the popular name right now. It seems like amongst the fan base, that's they kind of want to see somebody new here. But Poile's been here forever as the head of, it's not scouting, but hockey operations. And then he had hockey operations, and then he was promoted to assistant GM, and he's been here for 15 plus years now. And he's been kind of Trotz's right-hand man and any general manager's right-hand man. He's been here throughout the whole time. So if they're going for internal hire, if they want to stay with this whole vision that they've had for forever, honestly, he's looking like the candidate that will step up into that role. But it seems like the Predators are very much open to bringing in some new life into the organization.
At the Olympic break now, Nashville 4 points out of a playoff spot. How realistic are their playoff chances, and what is the approach that the organization, especially with all this turnover, what do you think the approach they're going to take with this year's playoff chances is?
Yeah, it's been really odd just in the sense that they were the worst team in the NHL for the first month of play. They really turned stuff around. And then for the past month and a half, so they've been just stuck essentially. They've been hanging out, as you mentioned, in that 4 or 5 point spot outside of the playoffs. As much as they do, it just seems like they can't string enough wins together to get into that wild card spot. And on the other side, it seems like everybody in the Pacific Division is winning in front of them. And I've been telling a few people this, in my mindset is coming up to the trade deadline, I was confident that we'd have a kind of a feel in the media of what they wanted to do, essentially, if they wanted to go a little bit harder into a rebuild, like a spot like the Blues are in right now, or they wanted to make a push a little bit more. Either way, in this final 2 weeks or whatever, before the break, we were going to figure out what exactly that was. We don't know. We still don't know what that is right now. It would make the most sense, and it's hockey, so sometimes it doesn't make any sense at all, but it would make the most sense if they amplify the core that they have in place. You have a lot of really good veteran guys there. You have good leadership there. You have youth that's slowly going through the pipeline. Now that pipeline is moving very, very slow from Milwaukee, but it's moving. You have younger guys in the system here, and you have the good leadership here. And in my opinion, it would feel like a waste just to kind of throw all that out and go full tank mode. It feels like they still have the pieces left to do something and put something together. It's about a core they have in place and how can they strengthen that. In my opinion, I don't know what's going on with management, but in my opinion, that's what they can do to push forward into the playoffs a little bit more, and what should be the goal at the deadline.
So what positions, what parts are they looking to add if they do go that route?
Yeah, I mean, it's, in my opinion, and a lot of what I've heard from around, I've been doing a lot of planning this week and talking to a lot of different media stars and the media members on the Locked On Predators podcast, and getting their feels and everything about what they feel about what may happen at the trade deadline. And a lot of people agree it's a lot of what's happening at the fourth line, third line, and just getting, an extra boost. One of the guys is Michael McCarron that's been going around a little bit more. He's been slowly rising as the popular guy that might come out of Nashville. And I think he's good for a contender team. Just, he's huge. He's big. He can really get into those gritty battles. He can fight if he definitely needs to, for sure. But that's really not what the Predators need right now. They need a little bit more of a scoring push from that bottom line, even if it's just, it can't be anything crazy, but they just need a little bit of a lift, especially down the middle, because their center depth has been awful this entire year, and they need that little lift there at the fourth and third line. And then, in my opinion, the defense needs a lot of fixing. A lot of it has been Roman Josi and Nick Blankenburg. Roman Josi has been huge this year. Nick Blankenburg has been a workhorse, a little bit of a smaller guy, grinded it out, but everyone behind them has either underperformed, has that little bit of that Predators mindset of just they're big equals slow, a little bit more so, just speed, a little bit more on the back end as well. But those are the big things I think they'll be looking at going into the trade deadline.
And if they Who do you think, if they opt to, would be most likely to be traded away at the deadline?
Yeah, it's Michael Bunting is looking like the popular guy on the wing. And just his offensive production has amplified immensely this year. He was a guy that was racking up penalty minutes a little bit more. He has seemingly axed that out of his game and has really put that more on towards scoring and helping set up goals and such. And he's been huge. He's a great bottom six guy that could be used in any roster, I think, in the league. Michael McCarron, as I mentioned, is getting very popular as well. And then Nick Blankenburg, I think, has he's selling himself a little bit more, a smaller guy that works really hard and could be a good second, third pair guy any other team. But he's just shorter, but his just ability to get out there and just grind is so important. And then I don't think they're making any big trades. I don't think Ryan O'Reilly is coming off the board. I don't think Steven Stamkos is coming off it, or Jonathan Marchessault. So it just doesn't make sense in the moment. And they're not at the point right now as close as they are to it, or in the mushy middle essentially of it all, where they could be. They're just not in that position right now to offload that leadership that's so important.
All right, Jack, I know you'll have it covered every step of the way in the next month and beyond. Why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Yeah, of course. Locked On Predators podcast. As I mentioned, it's the Olympic break, so I have all different guests coming on this week. You can find us on Twitter, LO_Predators, and Facebook and Instagram. We're just Locked On Predators. And then you can find all my ramblings and what's going on in my life. I'm at Jack G. Williams on Twitter /X.
All right, Jack, thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah, thanks.
Today's episode is brought to you by Factor. Cold days, packed schedules, and big goals. That's winter. And when there's not a lot of time to cook, eating well can feel like another thing on the to-do list. But that's where Factor comes in. Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs, so you can eat well without the planning, prepping, or cooking. Factor meals are always fresh, never frozen, and ready in about 2 minutes. The ingredients stand out: lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and no refined seed oils. It's perfect for busy weeks when you still want meals that support your goals without the stress. So head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off and use code LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. One free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active.